Well, hey, y'all, look, I know I had to stop by and interrupt for just one quick moment, but I want to make sure that you know how important you are as a subscriber or even a listener. I need you all to please do me a favor. And I know everybody's asking for, contending for your time, your attention, your subscription, but I want to ask you just to do me a favor. If you are here enjoying what's happening here at Camille Nash TV, please be sure to like the show, whatever you're watching, like it, please. Why don't you? Comment and even subscribe. That way we know that you are here. We're doing everything that we can to uplift and inspire our men. We want to, I say it all the time. It takes a transformed heart to create a transformed life. So it takes transparency in order to see transformation. You don't care about any of that. What's most important, I stopped by because I want to remind you that you matter, your listenership matters, and also to inform you that if you have not already, be sure to go on over if you're on Facebook to the Bullpen Show with me, Camille Nash, the redhead, so that you can stay connected and glued in with all of our guests, not only the guests that are forthcoming, but all the guests that have come in season one. We're going to be wrapping up season two soon. And I've got a lot of other big stuff that's coming over the next 3 months. It's just going to be explosive. It's already explosive. And we're going to be dropping remnants of it throughout all the aspects of social media and also, more importantly, in our Facebook group. So you all go on over there, stay connected, and don't miss anything that's happening. I hope life is treating you well. Let's get back to the episode. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Camille Nash, and welcome to the Bullpen. If you've been on this journey with us, you know here in the Bullpen, we talk everything media, ministry, and the marketplace. You also know that I have this special affinity for whales, and I would love to tell you that it was birthed out of some melodic story where you could hear the violins playing in the background. Yet, no, but in good godly fashion, God would allow me to take those lemons and turn them into lemonade. Hence the reason why we're here. During what I like to call the plandemic, I found myself in a lot of rooms, boardrooms, courtrooms, and tons of social media rooms. And I got to tell you, I really just got tired of hearing men attempt to tell women how to live their lives and vice versa. Women attempting to tell men how to live theirs. So I thought, why not create a space where I could invite men in to talk boldly and to talk straight about what it really looks like to live a life that is whole, healthy, alive, and not only surviving, but thriving. And who better for our men to hear from than another man? And of course, I have thousands of women out there that love to hear from these men. So we get the best of both worlds to allow us all into a special space. On tonight's show, I have over the years consistently heard all of these stories about baby mama drama, and there's some other dramas that happen too. But more importantly, I've heard that so many people, men and women, just really collide when it comes to our children. Some men feel that women use their children as pawns, even with how they get what they want, not really thinking about how those decisions will impact the children for the rest of their lives. And not only that, how it even may impact not only the relationship with their parents, but relationships in their own personal lives. So tonight, I am going to invite to the platform a gentleman that I have known for a few years now. We serve in the same ministry, but no, you don't care about any of that. What's really important is I marvel at how he's been able to allow his life to not only shine bright, but really make sure that he put his daughter at the very top of the list. Right behind God, he's looking at how could he make his life better make a better life for his daughter. And I like to say he's a girl dad. So all you girl dads out there, you all get ready because this is going to be a great show. We're going to talk about what it really looks like to think about not only you as a parent, but to make sure that everything you're doing is for the child's sake. Why? Because children didn't ask to be here. They join our lives. We don't join theirs, right? So we're going to talk with a gentleman tonight that is really anointed to speak in this space and has been able to change lives not only through the authorship of a book, but really also in being a personal and a in life or living color example of what it looks like. So allow me to introduce to some and present to others, that in the form of Mr. Lorin Akers.
Good
And
evening.
there
Good
he is.
evening. Hello. Thank you, Dr. Nash. That was awesome. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, she just hyped it up real good. I'm hoping that's me. I heard my name now, so
Yeah.
hopefully that's me.
That is definite and most definitely you, Lauren. I am delighted to have you in the space tonight because many of us have seen so many different stories where our children become casualties because of a broken relationship. And so, before we jump into our
Right.
topic tonight, in making sure that we as parents look at putting our children, making our children a priority and making every decision for the child's sake. First of all, if you don't mind, please take a moment and share with our audience a little bit about you, maybe what they wouldn't be able to find out in a resume.
Well, once again, thank you very much. My name is Lorin Akers. I am the proud son of Lloyd and Mary Akers. My mother's passed on. She's definitely here in my heart and always around me. So I'm the proud son of those folks. My biological father is Lonnie. He's out there in Delaware area, in Philadelphia area, Lonnie Williams. So wonderful parents. So they embraced me. I never felt like I was a quote unquote stepchild. I have been the son of both of these families. And so I've always received love from them. So that's my first priority in terms of being a godly man and also being a godly son. Also, love the church. So I've served the Pilgrim and other churches across the country in the choir, and most recently, last several years, as an usher board member. I realized I like to engage with our peoples. So sometimes I get a little closer to the folks because I have no fear of going and engaging them. And so that's always been a joy to be a part of the usher board. I'm also a fraternity member of Omega Psi Phi, which is why I complimented you on your purple and gold, royal purple and old gold. So definitely a member of that fraternity, and just someone who's embraces physical fitness, loves to get out there in life. And I've done some acting, and most recently, of course, as you mentioned, a recent author, not by choice, but it's one of those things that just felt compelled. But hey, I'm here to share that experience and that stories with other men as well, and really quoting that iron sharpens iron attitude. So
I
that's
love
who I am.
that about the iron sharpening iron because that's exactly what it takes. Now, you found yourself in this space where, so you are a girl dad. He's a girl dad,
Yes,
y'all.
yes,
And
yes,
you
yes.
found yourself, I know I've heard you say it in multiple spaces where you weren't planning to be an author. And sometimes certain things, some things happen to us all, not by
Right,
choice, but sometimes by force. So
right.
let's talk about a little bit about your journey in being a dad and where things kind of took a different turn for you, where you had to maybe look at changing your approach. Because I always say I teach a class of I teach a small group class for
Mhm.
divorce, and nobody in my mind, and I haven't found anyone to correct me yet. Most people don't get married planning to divorce, and
Right.
sometimes divorce can happen by choice or by force. But in either case, however it shows up, we sometimes find ourselves there. What I love about what you do and have done as a parent, as a father, is that you found yourself in a space where it was uncharted territory for you because you have one child, your first daughter, first child happened to be a daughter. So you had to learn a lot about parenting. And
No
so
doubt.
I want to talk about what that experience has been like for you when you realized that this was now going to be your story of no longer having to parent, it being a two-parent household for your daughter,
Mhm.
what the journey's been like for you to get you to this place to even begin to author a book.
Well, one of the first things I would say is that realizing that there is indeed a God. Not that we didn't already know. You get into the rhythm of serving one way. You sing your song, you go home, you usher, and then you go home. And then, but once you realize that you're going to be the single parent and realize, you ask yourself, why? How did I get here? What did I miss? Because you start to ask, when people find out that you're going through the situation, they're saying, well, how long did you date? Well, didn't you see the signs? No, what? Well, I don't know. I wasn't looking to not be married. So I don't know if I was looking for any particular signs as to discount this person. I think I was looking initially at what makes that person wonderful and great. So, and I'm saying, I'm not, like you said, throwing shade. It was a wonderful experience, but it got to a point where we just couldn't really get along. And it got to a point where I felt as a male that I had to make a decision. If I'm going to stay in this situation, then there's a lot of things I'm going to have to change about how we're navigating this marriage. Or we sought counseling through. So in terms of realizing at this point here, while being married, I had to make a decision, because one of the aspects that was being thrust upon me from my ex, like I said, I'm not throwing shade, simply explaining to you what my thought process was, is I was being told, hey, I'm not liking the way you're acting. Otherwise, I'm not going to have this child with you. I'm not liking the way you're acting. And once we have the child, I'm threatening to leave with my child. And so, the court systems works on our behalf. And so I had to get to the point where, okay, what am I going to do going forward? How am I going to act? So along the way, I'm still going to church. I'm still believing in God. I'm still praying every day, wondering, okay, how do I navigate this whole situation? And it got to a point where I realized, okay, I have now become indifferent. Okay. So as men out there, at some point, once you get to the point where you're indifferent, a lot of things stop. And so now I had to figure, okay, now that I'm feeling indifferent, I had to figure out how to move forward. Okay. So continuing to pray. And that's when I kind of started to reach out to the pastor. I reached out to the usher board. I had a confession in one of our sessions at church. And I asked them, okay, this is what I'm experiencing. I may need your help and your support as I navigate and move forward. So for a man to stop and ask for help, to reach out, that took a lot of courage. That took a lot of thought, a lot of prayer, because I'm not used to having to reach out to ask for help. That's not something that is even part of my repertoire. And so I realized that was one thing. Reach out to my parents and let them know what I was experiencing and say, okay, this is what's happening. I may need your support here. I'm reaching out to my fraternity in terms of embracing me, getting me out of the house, in terms of so I don't do anything silly and stupid. Okay, and embracing me, not in a way that I need coddling, but in a way that someone's listening to me as well, using that iron sharpens iron. Let's get out and do something. Let's go out and play ball, go to the gym, do something else there. And then also something I never really thought about, reaching out to my coworkers, those folks, incidentally, who didn't look like me. How about that?
Well, wait a minute. So you just said a whole lot right there, Lorin.
Yes.
I mean, I want to just dig into what did it take for you to say, you know what? Because I can't just let you gloss right past that. You said you realized that you needed some help, and you
Yes.
start looking at all of these resources around you. So what was that turning point for you? What was the turning point to say, you know what, I do need some help. I can't do this alone. I don't know where to start first. What happened to you with that, whether it was confession or you had to really hearken into the voice of God? What happened for you during that time? What was the turning point?
Well, when you hit that brick wall and realize that though I'm complaining and asking for my help, I reached out, and of course at this point here, I had obtained an attorney, because I kept thinking that if my ex is asking me for a divorce and was threatening me a couple of different times, on the third time when she asked for divorce, I said, okay. And so what did that mean? I went ahead and researched it. Okay, I can go online and then go ahead and put together the paperwork for the divorce. But she found copies of that divorce on my computer. I mean, I'm thinking I don't need to hide that stuff. I mean, we asked for divorce. I'm going to go ahead and facilitate this. So I started to drum up the paperwork. So when it was communicated to me, no, you just can't do that because we have a child and we have property. Okay. So that was my next okay. I said, okay. So I started to look. And so one of my fraternity brothers is an attorney. So I contacted him and say, hey, this is what I'm going through. Are you that kind of attorney? So I didn't know what type, I just knew it was an attorney. I didn't know what kind. I said, can you direct me in attention? He said, yes, I'm a family attorney. Oh, okay. I think I need to hire you. So I had a session, went through the process, paid a fee. And then, so he's asking me, hey, did you receive the receipt? Well, no. He said, well, we sent it to your house like a week ago. Interesting. So that's when I realized, okay, my mail, I'm not receiving my mail.
Right.
So now you have to get to the process. So now when you start hitting these little brick walls, these things enable you to figure out that you need to create a process. And so that's when I started to change the mail, where the mail goes, my banking, all these different things I had to start to change. And then I had to realize, okay, how do I get help? Because once you get in the system, then the courts move very, very, very slow for some people. Okay. So realizing, I'm thinking, okay, let's get this thing going. I have to get a court date 2-3 months in advance. You got to pay the fees to those holding fees for your attorney and things of that nature. So money, support, and realizing all depositions and paperwork and documentation. And so getting off of work to go to counseling, your EAP program, employee assistance program, if you have that at your job, to go to counseling sessions to realize, okay, this is going to be impactful to you. Lack of sleep, stress, all these different things start to impact you. So you had to realize once you started to go to counseling, and this is part of your job, you can do that. You can set aside time from your job to go to these different things. I had to realize these different things that's impacting my work and the people that I'm associated with. So, and because I was feeling the stress, people started to notice. So then I started to talk more and reach out. And that's when they offered help and offered assistance. And then you also realize that perhaps those who you thought were closest to you, and I know they can't always, some people don't want to get involved, and you realize, wow, okay, this is what that looks like. So that's when I had to do a lot of prayer in terms of, okay, I need God direct me to people who can assist me, and realize that when you look out, when you have people like that, they're here for a season. Because if I may jump forward, a lot of the people that I reached out to, their situation has changed. They were there for that season that I needed them. Now their season has completely changed, and they're really out of my life. Not because I was trying to cut the ties, but because they were there in that moment for that season for me when I needed them. And so that was impactful to realize that there's this godly thing going on that we don't know about, when God knows us, and that he wanted me to get into a place where I was forced to reach out and get that help to get me through the next step.
And it definitely sounds like you had, you were definitely gifted to have these people positioned around you. And while you had them around you at different seasons, you also were very keenly aware. And that's the important piece, is your eyes were open, your heart was open, even though it was maybe crushing it to some degree. You were still open to be able to hear what it is that God was even calling out of you for this season. I imagine that throughout the scenario, the situation, you met some wonderful people along the way, and God has gifted you to put different relationships in your path. What was happening for your daughter during this time while you realized? Now, y'all heard him say he got some counseling help. He got him some help. He got some help. Realized he needed some. What was happening for your daughter, and how did you support her through the transition?
Well, because at this time she's 2 and 3 years old. Okay, so she's not really knowing a lot about the situation, other than the court system was allowing me now. Because I talk to the gentleman a lot of time, I've been a lot of speaking engagements. One of the first things I have to tell the gentleman to do is realize that reaching out and trying to get back at your spouse is not the answer. You've got to stop.
That is not the answer. That is not the answer.
That is not the answer at all. Getting upset and angry at my attorney for not moving fast enough, because I want things to move so I can get that relationship back in place. So it's one of those things where you have to realize, okay, let me stop. If you already have patience, you're going to be tested. This is really going to test you in terms of patience. So, and realize that what's our relationship is different because I don't have, at this point, I don't have custody because,
Mhm.
for lack of a better word, whoever moves fastest gets the first help. What do I mean by that?
Yeah,
When
what do you
someone
mean?
says, okay, when someone goes to the court and says, hey, I'm being subjected to this thing. I need to go through this process. I don't think this father's acting right. The court is going to act on behalf of who moves first, and to say that perhaps that person is being some harm is coming to them. Okay, and so they're going to act quickly to separate these parties. So now I've got to go back once I get served. You have to go to your attorney, get that wheel rolling. Okay, get on the court docket. That takes a few months to get back into a place so you can establish one communication and then have a counseling so that you can get to the point where you can even have an engagement. These are weeks and months that are separating you.
So
And
wait a minute.
so
Did
that's
I hear you properly? Are you saying that you have to have some level of turmoil going on in the relationship in order for how to determine how things are moved along and to who they view first? Is that what I heard you say?
what you heard me say, and I'm trying to be diplomatic about it, is that
I want
whoever
yeah.
speaks first. So it doesn't necessarily. It's almost different. It's almost to the point where some of the stuff that you're hearing in the court in the current presidential system.
Yeah.
So whatever it says doesn't necessarily have to be the truth.
What
It just
well,
needs to be communicated.
wow. Wow. That's
Okay.
a whole word right there in itself.
Absolutely.
That's a whole
Yeah.
word. And I know a little bit of your story, and I know that you definitely went through. So this was a very tough season for you, and I know
Mhm.
now also that your daughter is an adult and she's thriving in life, which we'll get to. But I really just want to encourage the men out there. Somebody's going through this right now,
Right.
and we want to make sure that you're encouraged to know that you can make it, and you're going to make it, but you want to make sure that you follow the proper steps, that you operate with a level of protocol so that you can protect yourself. And so, Lorin, I want you to share with the audience a little bit around some of the steps that you took with really protecting and preserving not only your sanity, your emotional health, but also even just how you moved and walked through this. Because a lot of folks like to tell me that, like to stress that, as
Mhm.
if men don't hurt. So I just want you to talk to our audience around what you did in really harnessing the EAP services, and really
Mhm.
what it required out of you personally to be the better
Okay.
man that you are today.
Sure. A couple different things. So you mentioned about a lot of times in the community here that men don't feel. Okay. So one of the reasons later on in terms of writing the book, the format that I created was basically I'm going to bring you on this journey with me and kind of walk through this process. So you basically the book has engaged me just talking to you about what I am experiencing. And so that's the premise behind the book. Once again, it wasn't something that I started off doing, basically just a gathering of notes. Okay. And that kind of led me to creating this document that's going to help somebody perhaps so that they can kind of navigate the situation. So, one, you need to pause and stop, man. Okay. Because your focus is not against the ex. Your goal at some point is going to be making sure that you have that communication with your child. Now, I was thinking way in advance to say that if I somehow created a dangerous situation between me and the ex and I didn't have relationship with my daughter at some point, she's going to wonder, Dad, did you love me? I needed you 10 years ago. I needed you 12 years ago. So what does that mean? That means you have to stop and realize that these things that you're saying, you arguing, fussing, emailing, typing, putting that information is being recorded and being documented. So you need to stop and you need to really embrace yourself and realize you take yourself in control. There's been some times I've been challenged to my face. And so I had to put the poker face and once again, put that indifference face on. And so if I move, say, blink, or fidget, it's going to be taken and perhaps used against me. I assumed, unfortunately, like I said, through counseling and realized that Every time I left this house, I was thinking that someone was watching and recording me. Every time I got on the phone, that it's being recorded. Every email that I was writing is being recorded. That was my thought, my process. I got to that point. So I had to stop and realize, okay, later on through counseling, that is not the case. So these are protective measures that I was putting in place for myself, because my main goal was to make sure I have a relationship with that child. That later on, when she's looking for her father, I'm not going to be absent father or one that's just only on weekends. No. That's really the reason why the title of the book, Not by My Hand, which I'm talking to God. Okay, God, am I going to have a relationship with my child? And he came back to me. I was sitting in my living room on my knees, crying, boohoo big time, sitting in my pile of tears. And that, of course, this is something I would never do in front of a female. It just ain't going to happen. But it's one of those things where when I'm sitting alone and I'm dealing with these situations, that these emotions came up. And I said, okay, so God came back to me and says, yes, but not by my hand, by his hand. So there's nothing that I was going to do. There's no strategy that I was going to take. There's no lawyer that I was going to pay to somehow manipulate this Johnny Cochran thing going on. God's going to make this thing happen. All I needed to do is stop and be in this moment and do what I need to do and follow his lead, his direction. And you alluded to it earlier, having to reach out to all those folks because I needed help. I couldn't do this on my own. I had to ask for help. When I needed to see my child, when it got to that point, I had to have parenting monitors. So what does that look like? I had to get people who I could trust, who are willing to take time from their families, hours to drive and meet me at whatever location, stopping at McDonald's, sit there with me, had to give all their information to the courts, to my attorney, so they can sit with me so I can be with my child. Okay. But that's okay. Because my whole premise is that I can't worry about what the world is thinking, what they're feeling, what they're saying. I need to make sure that I have my relationship with this child. So later on, she can get to know who I am, not through articles, not through documentation, not through what they're saying, because it got to a point later on once the communication was established, she was calling me Lorin. I was like, okay, look, I'm your father. Okay?
Wait a minute. Your daughter called you by your first name?
Because that's what they were saying. That they didn't have to refer to me as he's not your father. Okay? They were saying, and there how there's other different things, that Lorin this and Lorin that. I know these things. And that's because I can hear it in the communication. Yeah. Okay? Once it got to the point where she did get on the phone, because we established communication with. So when I did get custody, partial custody or temporary custody, it got to a point where it was common to have like phone conversations each night before you go to sleep. Okay. And I could tell that was a different kind of communication when I would call her. I know that I didn't want to put her in a position to I could tell her I didn't want to say that I loved her because she felt compelled to have to say it back. I could hear the hesitancy in her voice. That someone was watching and listening to her everything. So I would just keep the communication so it didn't put her in a spot. How was your day? What did you eat today? Not to say that did you eat, but what did you eat today? How was school? Did you have fun? Maybe a minute or two, and that's it. Because I can kind of hear the hesitancy. Now, when she was at my home, we got to that point, I get, oh, so-and-so, I love you. So I said, I'd leave that, and I would leave the room intentionally to make sure that she had that personal time. Because I can hear her saying, yes, yes, he's right here. So I'd say, okay, let me just not make her uncomfortable. Let me just leave the environment. So that was the goal, is that you realize you had to kind of navigate these different things. And so I'm not going to get upset about this child. What is she doing? No, this is not the caveat. This is not the instrument to find out what's going on in the household. She is not it. Okay. Got to a point also where I stopped having those phone conversations. I had to, judge basically admitted that we had to have text or email conversations. And that seemed to stem the anger, because this is information that can be used in court, which is wonderful. Yeah. Okay. So basically you had to kind of just check yourself, realize the ex is not the enemy, and that if you want to establish communication, you really had to make sure to keep yourself calm and realize that in order to keep this communication, you got to check yourself.
I love what you said about realizing that your former spouse was not the enemy. And that is not a place that many of us easily get to right away, because I always look at it like when we talk about a divorce, it's a divide, it's a tearing of flesh. So,
Mhm.
because it's a tearing of flesh, remember when you get married, you become one. And because the tearing of flesh in the humanistic side of us, we feel it.
Right.
So we have to die to ourselves somewhere in order to still be a parent that is able to be healthy in front of our children.
Right.
So I imagine that, would you say that being a single dad, or a dad that's single parenting, because you and your wife eventually, your former wife eventually, were able to get to a place of peace and be able to co-parent. You all were at some point eventually able to get there. Was it really tough for you as a dad walking through this on your own, or did God really put a good, wonderful village around you pretty quickly?
Well, definitely put a village around me in terms of having these outlets, because in our community, once we become a part of a Christian community, a trustful community. So during
Yeah,
holidays, they were like, "No, you're not going to be at there at your house by yourself." So I had a whole lot of moms and dads here locally, even those at my age and even younger, saying, "You coming over to
right,
hang out with us, so you can get
right.
out the house. You're gonna have some joy for a moment or two." Our fraternity allowed me to come and hang out with the bros when we went to our centennial and 100th anniversary, to go
Yeah.
hang out with the bros and just crash in a room and things of that
Okay.
nature. So I had plenty of folks around who kind of embraced that. And so realizing that it wasn't necessarily that people come to terms, sometimes the courts act in a way, realizing that this is a tumultuous situation. You're going to
Yeah.
have to act to keep this separate, but separate in a way that allows for, once you get the written communication, a lot of the verbal altercations will stop. So it didn't have to be abused that way. And so
Yeah.
therefore we can navigate moving forward in a separate, for lack of a better word, separate but equal way, so that we can
Yeah.
basically get this resolved. Because the
That's
goal was the establishment of that communication with my child. That was my main emphasis, to make sure that I'm an involved dad. I'm not one of those who just gonna pay a check. No, 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 no. Even from day one, once the
mm,
child was in his life, I'm there. I'm on the ground. I'm on the floor. I'm doing this and doing that. And I'm
yeah.
heavily involved. I don't want to miss nothing. I don't want to miss not a day. If there's a tooth there, I want to see it. If there's a tooth
Yeah.
missing, I'm there as well. So I'm not one of those where you take your place. When a child needs to be disciplined, I'm right there as well. When they're there to be lauded and celebrated, I'm right there. So that's who I am. I think perhaps that was not understood, perhaps because you have to kind of look at the fellas. You have to kind of look at sometimes how people are raised. Sometimes they're raised that men are over here in this room, the ladies and perhaps the kids over here in this room. Well, I'm not the one over in that room. I'm there with the kids on the ground on the floor. So I think perhaps I broke all the rules because I'm engaged. So I don't
Yeah.
think that was really understood, really known. And so, but yeah, so that's kind of who I am and what I'm about.
Well,
So
that's really good, because that's something for all the men out there listening to learn, the importance of just really getting involved. And based on what I'm hearing, obviously it wasn't a very easy thing to do. You had to some degree kind of push your way through. And
right.
how long did it take for you all to get to the place of being able to get on one accord, where your former wife was able to see, hey, you know what? He really is about this life. He's going to do whatever it takes with integrity to make sure that he is nestled. Some families, they'll move right down the street from each other, or not far from each other. I always think about that movie. One of my older kids' favorite movie, Mrs. Doubtfire. How the dad wanted to be there so badly, he was willing to do whatever it took to make sure that
Right.
he was intricately involved in their lives every day. And so, somebody's listening tonight that is in this struggle or in this fight right now, and maybe even there's some dads that aren't married to the mother of the child.
Mhm.
Maybe you can speak to even a part of that journey for them and what they can do in terms of moving forward, even when it comes to maneuvering and navigating through the court system, because you did a lot to overcome this feat.
Yes. Well, let me take I guess the last part you talked about. So I'm a former military, and also so a lot of what I've done is to be 15 minutes early, if you're not 15 minutes early, you're late. So
Well,
being on time, being highly reliable was a key to everything. So my former has a different ex as well. So and he has a kid. So it got to the point where he hired my attorney because he saw how our situation turned out. And I always just try to tell him, so look, you can't be at the court late. You can't show up yelling and screaming in court. You can't run in there angry and whatnot. Your melanin will allow you, people have different thoughts about you once you walk in and realize how you look. So you almost have to walk in there with a different mindset. And so not to say I'm perfect, but I like to say that typically I'm always on time. Okay. I always present myself in a way that shows some dignity and some class or whatever. So because my goal, once again, is my relationship with my child. Okay. So that's key.
he is, y'all. He's always on time. He's early. He's early. He's an early.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Now, the usher boy would say otherwise because I'm always getting there late. So, but I'm just saying.
But wait, I want to make sure you all heard that. So you said that you became a partner, if you will, or a support to the other dad. There's another dad involved.
Right. So she had other.
I want to make sure y'all heard that the brothers came together.
Right. It got to. Yeah. So he's not my enemy. I have no issues with the brother, and whatnot. So it got to a point he realized, he saw how our situation transpired. He hired my attorney, right, to help navigate that situation, but once again, you can't be late. You can't be showing up without your stuff in together and on time. So it didn't create a great situation for him. It was a little bit better, but it wasn't as involved. So that's why I tell men when I talk and meet with them, one, you got to calm yourself. Don't write anything, any kind of issues that can come back with you in court. Just be that person that's there and be a great representative, so that person can say, okay, that judge and that other attorney can say, this person's okay. And those who are watching from the side, it's amazing how when I had to ask for depositions from perhaps other usher board members to say, okay, to my character, how people stepped up and said, I'm willing to sign up because I've watched you from afar. Okay. I've watched you from people across the street. I've watched you because when they start the investigations, they're asking your neighbors, people across the street, people within 360 of you, where you're at your job, at the daycare center. They're asking for character references. So if they've seen you pop off and act silly 2 years ago, they're going to remember that. They're going to say that. Now, praise God, none of these folks have ever said that to me about me. Okay? Because all that character goes back into your history. So you notice a lot of this presidential stuff, people with a character start digging in there 30 years ago with Governor Walls and whatnot. You know what I mean? All that stuff's going to come up. So your history, your character, what you do years ago, especially moving forward, will make a difference. So
my God, you speaking a powerful word tonight. You speaking a powerful word. My goodness. So as you have walked through all of this, walked through these steps, fought the court system, and this is an abbreviated version, you all. You have to definitely go and get the book so you can get more of the intricacies of it, and we'll be sure to include the links in the show description, so you'll be able to find all that there. So I do want you all to go on and learn more about the journey. Somebody or maybe even you that's listening, you might be walking through these steps right now, or walking through this journey right now, and I want you to know that you have some help right here on the line. You have some support. You're not in this by yourself. I want to talk about the good, where your daughter is now, and how you have been able to walk through all these steps with her, with what she's been able to accomplish. So share with our audience a little bit about what she's been able to accomplish to get over these hurdles, what her life has been like through high school, and where she is now, a college student.
And just realize, man, that there's going to be a time when, I'm going to paraphrase this, there'll be issues, throughout the night. Joy comes in the morning. So just realize, though you're weeping, tonight, if you're just patient enough, joy is going to come in the morning. And so that's basically what happened. Is that
Oh,
as I
wait. Say that again. Say that again. The joy is coming. Trouble don't last
yes,
always. It don't last
right,
always. That's the part.
definitely,
My
though
God.
you're crying at night, obviously I'm kind of butchering the scripture, but basically as you're crying in the evening, crying at night, crying overnight, all night, if you give yourself patience, once you're praying, get on your knees and realize as you look up, joy comes in the morning. Okay. So I'm gonna use that as my trophy, my metaphor for life, is that there's troubles that are happening right now. If you're patient, if you keep prayed up through time. So realizing, so you talked about how my daughters now, we have an absolutely outstanding relationship, is that she realized as she started to get older and mature that some of those things weren't true. Those things that are being communicated are indeed not true. And so there came a day where she finally asked, I didn't try to push it on her. One day she asked, okay, what did happen? I just simply said, okay, do you really want to know? And I said, okay, I'm not going to communicate it. I'm going to go back to the paper. I kept every document, every form, every paperwork. Eventually I got to a point where it's just too much. I had to toss it and kept the important stuff. Okay. So I just showed her one of the last documents that revealed. And so she went up, read it, went up to her room, cried for an hour, came back downstairs and said, do you want to, we don't have to, continue to have that discussion. It's all written in the documentation. She said, okay, I agree. So we can move forward now. She said, I agree. Okay, great. And we haven't brought it up since. So now realizing that our relationship, once you come to the door, is different because we have a different sort of, we treat things differently. What's done over there is not necessarily what's done here. Okay, so realize you can establish your own boundaries, your rules in your own household. And one thing about it is that we're going to communicate, nothing's off the table. And so I need you to communicate to me in a way that's respectful as well. So we have a lot of joy, a lot of fun, and going places and doing things, creating those memories, doing things and having fun, not necessarily having to spend these elaborate, expensive trips, but the memories of it, going on walks, communicating, on bike rides, communicating, going to the library, pointing out books, reading together, going on educational experiences, going to, for example, the biosphere, going to the Karshner Caverns, going to DC to the Library of Congress, these different things that are uniquely ours, and creating those memories. Those are the fun things, and doing it together, not using some sort of surrogate for someone. No, I'm there. I'm at the rehearsals. Creating during my parenting time, going to volleyball, going to ballet, having karate and being there, being a karate parent, helping the other parents. So being involved, letting her see me interact with other parents and other kids as well. So just seeing her and establish that relationship. So, and not sitting in front of a TV when she does come over here. We're going to do things together. Okay, eating together, seeing me cook, we'll figure out how to cook, going to YouTube, figuring out how to cook different meals. But I'm a mean preparer, and I didn't know how to cook nothing, so I had to learn how to cook some things, So some meals, hitting all food groups and whatnot. So,
yes, right, exactly.
So, yeah.
So good. One thing that we didn't touch on, and I know it's a very real topic, so I don't want to ignore the elephant in the room.
Sure.
At what point did your former wife just come on and get along and get on and get along, where you all were able to kind of navigate and walk through the steps together? Because I know it's not always easy, so we can't pretend like it is. We can't pretend like everybody's just going to get along right away. How long did it take for you to get to that place where you all were able to have and find a space of agreeable medium, so you could look at what is important and most important for the child, because it's all about for the child's sake? How long did it take for that?
Once I can't really say that actually has taken place.
Okay, that's a real response. Y'all hear that? That's a real response. That's a real response.
Let me give you the quick Cliff Notes version of that. So the court's basically designated court time. My court time was through my attorney every Monday through Wednesday, and every other weekend. So calendar wise, it's pretty much right down the middle. Okay. So I did everything within my time. She went to karate, during ballet, all the different things during my time. So those are the different things that I had. Now, throughout schools and trying to create these relationships, none of that really was blended. It came into fruition. I will say that we were parents, and so we had no issues when we got to a point when she had music rehearsals. We were at the same space at the same time, and sometimes those were our drop-off pickup days. Okay, so
Right.
I will say. So let me answer the question differently. In that, when we picked up and drop off. Now, initially, the first 6 or 7 years, because I had a camcorder, I'll record my drop offs because she has all her limbs and her hair in a certain place, and all the pickups. I will record. I have stacks of recordings on all those different things, and they came into play when we had to go to court in a trial. I had to have those recordings to display. So I say being aware and realizing that I'm not going anywhere, that I'm not going to roll over, and that I'm willing to pay whatever fees. And so I put in a book, and I'll give you this nugget here. Got to a point where I didn't even look at the emails from the attorneys because I couldn't pay what the fee was. The only thing I could pay basically was the interest, not even the principal on what was due. And so it took me 10 years to get back to a point of zero where I could pay that off. Okay. And so once the courts realized that through trial and through other counselings that these were false allegations, okay, through counselings, they realized so there was fees that were docked against the ex, and so I had to pay the attorneys their fees. And so now could I go and get a investigator and find out so I can get those fees back? It's somewhere in the neighborhood of 50,000 plus. I got to a point where I just stopped paying, stopped worrying about it, because now my prayer was, let me be healthy enough to pay my attorneys off. So I was working 3 and 4 jobs at a time, constantly to pay that off. And so my prayer, especially for you gentlemen, don't look there to kind of get back at somebody. Look here and look at your child. And my prayer, once again, to you, my commission to you is your prayer to stay healthy, work those different jobs, do whatever you have to do to keep that communication. Now, the benefit of that is that as she, like I said, got older, I was able to have that relationship. So I was able to be the one who's responsible for her education, for her health, and for a lot of the information going on with her. So she realized that I'm a good resource. So I had to petition for her middle school, for her high school, and I had to create a case that says the school that I am actually did research on this. The school that I am petitioning for was a better school. So all these different things were in my favor, and even helped her get into college. Now that's kind of why I'm working a couple of jobs now, so she can be in one place on campus and not have to be in 2 households, because that's all she's ever known is, since she's 3 years old, is go to dad's house and go to mom's house. And so my commitment from years ago was when I started my 529 account, and that's something you can establish for your child, that education account, so you can work in advance, be able to create those funds to be able to pay for college if you want your child to go to school or whatever, is to think ahead of that. So therefore she can be in one place. So that's been my goal, and that's what I'm dealing with right now. So I'm just blessed to see her benefit from those fruits of starting that 529 when she was 3 and 4 years old. Then she's 19 and in college, doing wonderfully and having that great attitude. And once again, having that relationship where she calls me and wants to do stuff. She calls me and wants to go to breakfast. She calls me and chat about these grades. That's how God works these things. You know what I'm saying? So just do you, brother, do you, sister, and realize from a young lady's point of view, as a spouse, perhaps, that if it's possible, if there's no physical challenge, I understand if there's any domestic stuff going on, I get that. But if you can allow that child to have that relationship, to have that parenting time with that father, maybe they can, if it doesn't work that way, I get it. I understand. I'm not trying to tell you to do otherwise. But if it's just between you and the parent, don't, if possible, not trying to tell you what to do, ladies, please, 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 please. I'm simply asking if you can have that, allow that father to have that relationship with that child, because they're going to ask me that questions later on in life. I guarantee you. They're going to ask, what is my dad like? What is it about? Because I did it for me. I asked my parents, what was my dad like? Because it was something that I went through many years ago. Okay. So I know that child. So if you can allow that that would be so awesome.
Wow, that is
And man, if that is a possibility, making sure that you check yourself. And I think I was also speaking to the spouses, if there's no domestic situation. So if there is, I apologize. I'm simply asking if it's possible, allow that father to have a relationship with that child, because I guarantee you, they're going to be asking, okay, what is my father like? And I didn't want to go to be an older person and have a relationship with my child and have my child come to me. I was not old enough to ask for you. I needed you to do whatever you needed to do to allow this relationship, because you're the adult. You need to do whatever you need to do. So if you have to suck that pride up and toss it away, do what you got to do. And that's just exactly what I did. I had no issues. I had no pride. It didn't really matter, because what was important is I have a relationship with that child. Okay. And I want to thank the church for having those opportunities, because when she did, so once we did allow, because there was a break of about a year where I
yeah.
didn't have my relationship with my child. And so the
Mm,
church had a youth program, and it was the stem from the East Valley location. So big ups to Pam Johnson and the folks there with the usher board, and also for the hospitality committee, because they allowed young ladies to become a part of hospitality. My daughter did it for a day or two, but she wanted to join the usher board. I said, well, okay. So she
okay.
talked to Pam on her own and said, hey, I want to become an usher. So that was she saw other kids being a part of that program and allow her to kind of come on her own. Also with the children's church at the time was Emily
So
Staples.
for
And so,
so for our listening audience, he's talking about our current church.
yes,
That's Pilgrim Rest Baptist Church here in Phoenix. So those of you that are listening, that shout out is for you. And those other
yes.
people that are listening and you are not a part of our ministry, perhaps that's something for you to consider for your ministry on how you can truly make sure that you have that additional support. Now, continue on about the
Right,
children's
right,
ministry.
right. Or some community support programs, whatever the case is. But for my case, definitely shout outs to the church and the different facets there, because allow her to kind of do some things on her own and be a youth usher. So she did that for many years already in East Valley location. Of course, that's
Yeah.
now no longer there, but it still have the youth program now that's thriving. There's a singing group, they have dancers, all these different things that your kid can get involved in. So whatever that looks like, community or through your church, or if you're not a believer, like I said, in the community, something that you can do in the local school, perhaps have after school programs, whatever that is, allow your child to become involved and allow that spouse,
Yeah.
if possible, become a part of that program. Okay,
That
if
part.
possible. So
If,
that really, if
mm-hmm,
possible, because sometimes it's
it's
not
not possible.
possible, and only on, for example, for our youth programs that happen on certain weeks. Well, that may not have been my weekend, so therefore she can become involved in there.
Yeah.
So when the teachers were asking me, where's Micah? Where's your child? Well, she's with her mother this weekend. She'll be back
Yeah.
next, whatever the case is. So I didn't have an issue, but it's one of those things where get involved as much as she could so that she can become
Yeah.
involved in some other programs. So that helped to draw us together, because she had programs that we can talk about and practice with, volleyball, whatever the case is. You can kind of
Yeah.
get involved as an involved parent.
What I love about what you said is that, we come from faith. So when you come from faith, you know that the scripture says for us to be at peace as much as it is possible with all men.
Yeah,
And so what
absolutely.
that means that sometimes it's not possible. I just appreciate your vulnerability and transparency tonight. I often say that transparency is what leads to transformation, and we can't change unless we are willing to be open and share our journey. We can't share it all, but we can certainly share those parts or those points that will help change somebody's life. I know that I can't believe it. I don't know how you all feel, but we have come to a point in the show where we are not out of message, but we are certainly out of time. Here
Mhm.
in this season, we're talking all about getting our ships in order, having meaningful relationships. And I thought it very important to have the conversation about building those relationships and bonds with our children, even when we have to sometimes encounter maybe not the most pristine scenario and encounter those waters that are very trying. So that is the whole point of having this conversation tonight, is navigating those seas that are very tough and even turbulent at times. I ask everybody this question, Lorin, so I would be remiss not to ask
Okay.
you, And that is when it comes to relationships, because that's what we're
Yes.
talking about all season. And even in tonight's episode, we're talking all about, making sure that we look at what's necessary in building meaningful relationships for the child's sake. What would you say is the lesson that took you the longest to learn?
Perhaps embracing and understanding who I am and realizing that I need counseling, I need help as well, and to be able to reach out. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help because you're going to need that. During the times that perhaps it may not be convenient, but at least ask a question and realize that you don't always get the answer that you want, and that pride is not all is what it's cracked up to be. Relationships are important. Creating those memories is what's important. A lot of things that I was afraid of, I don't remember that, but I remember those memories, and so will you. So, and that's what's going to be important, creating memories now. So going forward, my goal, perhaps in the next relationship, if that becomes about the main modicum is going to be moving forward, is creating memories. And so
Mm.
that's it.
That is so good. So good. Well, listen, it has been my privilege and my honor to have you tonight. This has been marvelous. I hope that this has been helpful and inspiring to some of you out there. We'll have more information on how to catch up with Lorin, and so that you can stay connected with everything that he's doing, so you don't miss anything else. We'll be sure to include all that here in the show, in the links or show description. So how you can stay in touch with them. And also you can see at the bottom of the screen his Instagram, all those contact details are there. But we do thank you, Lorin, for joining us tonight and dropping all of this knowledge and
Yes.
insight nuggets that will help change the heart. And that's really what we're after in building these meaningful relationships. It's not just making deposits for the moment, but making deposits and nuggets that will help change people's lives for the rest of their lives. So it's been my delight, my privilege to have you in the bullpen tonight. Until the
Thank you,
next
Dr.
time.
Nash. Appreciate you.
Absolutely my pleasure. All right, you all. Well, I told y'all to hold on to your hats. If I didn't, I probably should have told you. But wasn't Lorin phenomenal tonight? I'm telling you. These are some of the things that we take for granted when it comes to the relationship with our children. I love the way he cares for his daughter, how making sure that she is at her best and has the very best. Just watching him glow when he talks about her, I just believe that all of us should have that level of love for our children. And I believe we do. We may not always show it all the time, but we want to let our kids see us not only not only surviving but thriving through life circumstances. So my will theory for tonight, what is it? What is it? Lorin has so much to say. Can y'all believe he said he don't like to talk? I think we tapped into something for him, didn't we? Well, I would say my theory for tonight is mainly, while you might not be on one accord, you might not be in sync with each other, even as you walk through the course of a divorce or a divide. If you weren't married when you brought children into this world, I say it all the time, they join our lives, we don't join theirs. So therefore, we are the ones that have to make the exception, or we're the ones that have to make the adjustment to ensure that we put them in the best spot, best life possible. We want to make sure that they're able and equipped to walk through a life that is pleasing to God, but also where they're able to make impact and walk their life, walk the life out that God has created for them. And they can only do that when we're healthy, when we're at our best as parents. So you men out there, I hope that you all will take this and run with it. And I would be remiss to share with you that if you have not, at this point, become a part of the bullpen show with me, Camille Nash, the redhead. We have a Facebook group. We invite you over there to stay connected so you can find out whatever's going on with Lorin, what may be coming down the line for any of our upcoming guests, and all those guests that we have had in the past on season 1 and even here in season 2. We don't want you to miss out on any of it. And I just want to thank you for joining us tonight. It's been a pleasure and a privilege. Now, you all know I say it all the time. Don't be greedy. Don't keep all this to yourself. I need you all to do me a favor. Share this link with a man that you know is going through it, that is in a tough season right now. He's got some major waves in his life as he's walking through keeping, maybe having joint custody or even getting full custody of his child, I need you all to do me a favor and share this episode with them tonight. And we'll be definitely praying for you. We're hoping for God's best for you, that you not just hear it, that you will take it, that you'll run with it, because there's somebody that's needing the insight and the advice that we'll share tonight. And we will see you in our very next episode of The Bullpen. Good night.